Hey guys, it's Emily, and this is my series where I bring you out on my hikes and into my trail journal. In the summer of 2020, I hiked two 14ers, Mt Yale and Gray's Peak, and encountered a lot of struggles that made me question my abilities as a hiker. Today, we'll sit down together as I go beyond my journal to talk through my experience with you. So Gray's Peak is a very popular class 1 near Silverthorne and Dillon. It's relatively close to Denver, and it's also it shares a saddle with its neighboring 14er, Tories Peak. So a lot of people, they'll go and do Gray's, and then they'll go and do Tories, which is a class 2. So and that was what my friends wanted to do. So I had some friends who were driving down, staying up in the mountains. So on August 6th, I stayed the night with them, and then, I didn't have to wake up quite as early, so we drove from Silverthorne to the trailhead, almost to the trailhead. You'll see. I didn't have to get up as early this time, which was really nice. I felt, way better than at first. So getting up to Gray's Peak is a super rocky road. You have to have 4-wheel drive, which just kind of boggles my mind a little bit that so many people do it, but it's a little bit harder to access. Especially Yale had a paved parking lot. It was so chill, but getting up the road to Gray's was you were just it was so bumpy. You were just rattling around in the car. So we ended up just kind of parking halfway up, and then adding a total of 2.5 miles of uphill to our hike. So that was not great. Didn't love that, but it was fine. But even doing this, my friends that had come to visit were already getting ahead of me. They were hiking ahead, and that didn't feel so good. They had come from out of town, and so I was okay, maybe with them I'll be okay. I'll stick with them at least, or something like that. But nope, they were blazing on up, just leaving me in the dust. So we all met up at the trailhead. They waited for me at around 5:30, and then we set off from there together. And I had made it clear to them that they could go on without me. I told them hey, I'm a pretty slow hiker, at least on a 14er. Generally I'm pretty good, but on a 14er, I noticed that I'm slower than a lot of people. So, if you guys want to go ahead, that's totally fine. And I was just hopefully maybe they'll stick with me. They won't be that fast, but no dice. They cruised up that bad boy. So, even though I told them it was okay to go on just to let me hike my own hike, I was still bummed to know I really was the slow one, as they pulled ahead and soon were completely out of my sight. And yeah, it was a bummer, and I wouldn't see them again till I was almost at the top, and they were heading back down. And yeah, it didn't feel great. It was also good to be hiking solo, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I was barely on the actual trail when I had to like sit down and take a break, and that's like when my friends really started to get away from me. And it just felt like I was constantly sitting down for breaks, like I was taking way too many, but my stomach was sloshing around. I had eaten some Belvita breakfast things that morning, and I shouldn't have done that probably. Literally felt like I was gonna throw up. So like on top of all the breathing issues I was having, like that's primarily what will slow me down on these trails, is that I just like cannot breathe. I need to take a break. But yeah, this trail I had the added issue of like, oh, I can't keep going. I'm gonna throw up. I need to sit down and like let my stomach settle, and then I'll go again, and then I'll feel like I gotta throw up, and then repeat the cycle. So that was really rough. I was being passed by a lot of people, but I was listening to my body rather than the pressure to keep pace with anyone else, since I was hiking solo. And I really embraced that lack of pressure. Like, of course, I wasn't fully solo. Like, I didn't come and do this 14er completely by myself. I was still, with my friends. I was aware of the fact that they were like blazing ahead of me, but I didn't focus on that. I was like, I'm just like, they're not with me. It's just me right now. I can't see them. I don't know like how far ahead they are. I'm just gonna, focus on me, my hike, what my body needs, and I'm gonna do this how I want to do this. So, I was taking breaks. I mean, I still felt a little bit guilty. I felt like I was taking too many, but I was just like, it's fine. Just take them, do what you need to do. And then I was also like taking a lot of videos and pictures and everything, and I didn't feel guilty because there was no one there waiting for me. So yeah, it was good to be able to be on my own and not have to like feel guilty that someone else had to wait. And that's really what I felt on Mt Yale. And that does come up a little bit later in this hike, but like for the most part, I was just like by myself doing what I needed to do, hiking how I wanted to hike, being at my pace, and that was really good. And on this trail, I never thought that I wasn't going to make it. Even if I was being left in the dust, I was sure of myself this time. I was like, I know that I can do this. If the storm rolls in, then maybe I'll have to turn around. But, or if I fall and like hurt myself, like I may have to turn around. But like in the event that none of that happens, I can do this. I may not be able to like go as fast. I may be struggling to breathe a little bit, but like I'm going to take my breaks and I'm going to get up there. That's what I needed to do. So it even began above tree line. So I didn't have that same thing on Yale where it was like, I'm never going to make it above the tree line. I'm going to be down here below these trees for so long. No, the entire thing is above tree line. So like I didn't have that same pressure either, which was really nice. But I was pretty much always sure that I wouldn't be doing Tories. And I was thinking my friends still might, but I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that today, especially like if there is like an afternoon thunderstorm. Like I just don't think I'm going to have time for that. So, yeah, that was just something I was always pretty much aware of. But, when I got up to that rockier part at the top, the Rocky Mountains, you're getting up to the Rockies. My mood lifted just like it did, on Yale. And, sure, I was still the slow one, still struggling, but I was getting into my groove, my stomach was feeling better. The views were starting to happen, and, I'm into that, of course. What else are we there for? Okay, we're there for other things, but like the views. I started counting my steps. I was keeping pace with other people, not being passed as much, which like obviously it made me feel better, And then, I had service for Spotify. So like I could turn on my jams, really just kind of play some music. And that was something on Yale. I really, at a certain point, I was like, man, I wish I had service right now because I want to listen to this like song that's going to uplift my mood, but I can't because I didn't download it and I don't have service. But I get to this point on Grays, I have service, and I'm like, I'm going to jam, I'm going to cruise, like I'm still going to take my breaks, count my steps, but like I'm in my groove, I'm ready to go. So, and I maintained a relatively consistent pace and good spirits almost until the top. So yeah, that was good. I ended up getting to the top about 9:40 in the morning, I believe. I thought it was going to be 9:30. I had estimated when I was getting close, but I had underestimated the switchbacks. So I was feeling really good about my time until I saw my friends on the way down. And then they told me that they had spent 45 minutes at the top, but they couldn't stay up there any longer because it was too cold. And that was just kind of a hit to my good mood, because even if they didn't intend it that way, it just kind of sounded like we couldn't wait for you anymore, you know? And whenever I compare our times, which, like, I shouldn't do either. I shouldn't be comparing myself to all these other hikers, but you naturally do, and it's hard to get out of that habit. I remember that they had to wait at the top, and I keep thinking I slowed them down. Like, when I compare our times, it's like, well, you can't really compare them because they had to wait for you. So, like, their hike would have been faster anyway. And, you know, that's not even necessarily true. They probably would have spent a good amount of time at the top anyway. So it's just, it doesn't really make sense. But, you know, that definitely is a hit to all that good energy I had. And, you know, it's not necessarily true, but it eats at me. It really does. And then they told me that they decided not to hike Tories, which also eats at me because, you know, they told me it's because of the weather and because, you know, it looked like such a steep incline from the top of Grays. And there's no reason to think that that's not true and that it's for any other reason. But, you know, in my mind, I was like, well, they did it. They had to wait too long for me, so they didn't have time anymore. And they didn't know where I was, so they couldn't, like, call me and say, hey, we're doing this. So yeah, it's just, my brain likes to tell me that I was cutting into their time when, you know, I doubt that was a big factor in the decision. And even if it was, like, they could have done it and without me, and that would have been fine. And they still had time. The clouds weren't that close. Like, it's not my fault that they didn't do it, you know? Like, it doesn't come down to me. And that's just something I need to realize. Like, I hate thinking that I ruined their hike somehow, or that I affected their hike somehow, the way that, you know, I affected Nick's hike. He had to slow down a lot for me, and I hate to think that I did that for them too, when I was just kind of like, go on without me, I'm gonna do my own thing, it'll be fine. So yeah, that's just another thing to just kind of come to terms with still. So but on a brighter note, my summit of Grace, you know, I still felt awesome getting up there. That nothing beats eating some variety of peanut butter sandwich while looking out at the view from a 14er. It's the best. I mean, maybe if you don't eat peanut butter, something else is better. But for me, I always pack like some kind of peanut butter sandwich. So even though, you know, I'd been left in the dust by my friends and so many others, I had made it to the top. I'd worked hard. I'd done it. And it was just that same incredible feeling, you know, that I had on Yale, and to a lesser extent, or, well, you know, I had a better feeling on Quandary, but like I said, first 14er, you can't beat it. So it was nice to have that solo experience at the top too. So, you know, normally I'm up there with Nick, and he's like, okay, we can only spend so much time up here, you know, let's eat, take your pics, let's go. But, you know, it was just kind of like, okay, I'm up here by myself. And of course, you know, there's a bunch of other random hikers up there. It still is like, I don't have my friends up here. I don't have Nick up here. I'm just chilling up here by myself. I can appreciate this moment solo. You know, I can sit here and eat my food, look at the view, take the pictures I want to take, you know, just kind of wander around, do what I want to do. And I really enjoyed that. It was nice. I didn't spend a ton of time up there. I was still like mildly pressured to like get down because of like, I don't want them to be waiting for me. So, you know, enjoying my solo experience at the top, but also like, I need to get down. They can't wait for me too long, even though they would have been fine. They would have been fine. They weren't waiting for me that long at all. I cruised down again, you know, I take that downhill. You gotta take, and I did cross country in high school, and it was like, you gotta take that downhill. Anyway, so I always feel really empowered on the way down after like struggling to the top, because it's like, I just did that and now I can do anything. So it you know, I feel really good on the way down. I'm encouraging everybody else. I'm just like, jamming on my music still, like having a really good time. And, you know, even though I do feel really great, there was also still, like I said, that feeling of I don't want them to be waiting for me at the bottom, so I need to get down there. So there was that bit of added pressure, but it was also still like, I love the feeling of just like running down a mountain. So, you know, maybe it's a little dangerous, but it feels good. So, yeah. And on the way down, I did see a lot of Grays has like so many wildflowers when you get past that rocky part at the top. But yeah, there's a lot of grassy exposed area since it begins above tree line. So, you know, you see a lot of really beautiful wildflowers, which was nice. And then I ended up getting back before noon. And my friend said they'd only been waiting like 15 minutes. And of course, in my head, I'm like, is it really 15 minutes or like, But, you know, I'm trying so hard not to be like, well, you know, it's my hike wasn't even that much slower to theirs in comparison, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't matter, you know. Even if they'd had to wait, it's fine. They were fine. So that was my hike of Grays. Let's talk about some final thoughts. When I moved to Colorado, I was like, I'm ready to hike all the 14ers right now. But after doing those two, I'm honestly a little less eager to climb all of them. Like immediately, at least. And even after doing Yale, I was like a little stressed about doing Grays because of how much I struggled. Because it's just so draining, like physically and mentally. Like when I get back, I'm like dead for the rest of the day, and even the day after, I like have to just like chill the next day. Like it takes a lot out of me, and that makes me feel bad. Like I'm like, I should recover faster than this, but like that's just how my body like does a 14er, and I just have to accept that. Like I can't just immediately go and do another one the next day. Like at least at this point in my life, like I need the rest, I need the recovery. So yeah, I'm just like, I'll get to them when I get to them. It's okay. And I'm not like desperate to, I don't even know if I want to do all of them necessarily, because, you know, when you get up to like the class 5s, it's like, okay, you're gonna have to do some climbing. And like, I do climb, but I haven't in a while because of the pandemic. I haven't been to a climbing gym, and I don't have gear and knowledge to climb outside yet. Like I had just started climbing when all this started happening. I hadn't even been climbing like a year. So, you know, that's not something I'm like, I need to go do all of them right now. No, I'm okay with waiting. So yeah. And then it's also just kind of like thinking about doing another 14er. I'm just like, you know, most likely whoever I hike with is going to be dragged down by me, and they're going to be leaving me in the dust. So it's either like I'm holding someone back, or someone is like way ahead of me, and like I might still hold them back because they're going to have to wait at the car for me or whatever. But yeah, that's something like I'm still coming to terms with a lot of this, but like definitely that is just like hard to think about. And, you know, I'm sure there are some people I could hike with, like I might be hiking with my family in October up a 14er, and like, you know, they might be more at my pace, which will be nice. But, you know, primarily I hike with Nick, and Nick doesn't struggle as much on 14ers, like I've said. So, you know, it's something that I have to like consider. And, you know, there's a voice in my mind that's telling me that I'm not worthy of calling myself a hiker because of my pace on these hikes. And that's not true. I'm really trying to push against that, but like it does make me feel like I don't deserve to be called a hiker because I'm not good at doing these hikes. And that's not even true. You know, it's not about how fast you go or how far you get, but about how you feel. It's your hike, not anyone else's. And I just that is something that I'm still kind of course coming to terms with. I keep saying that, but like that's just how it is. You gotta know it's okay if you take an hour longer than your group, or you can't complete the hike you set out to do. It doesn't make you any less of a hiker, no matter what your brain wants to say. Like, if you get out there on the trail, you're a hiker. You're doing it. Just because you're not as fast or whatever as anybody else, like, that doesn't make you any less of a hiker. But yeah, just to kind of end it off, I'm not done with 14ers. Like, just because I've had, you know, some struggles and some bad experiences, I'm not done with them. And even if I go out and, you know, I get halfway up one and I have to come back down because something happens, like, I'm not going to be done. I know that I can do these hikes, you know? And I've been adding more to my list since I did Yale and Grays. Like, after I did Grays, the next day I was like looking them up online, like, what other 14ers can I do? And even though I wasn't ready to go and immediately do another one, I was still like, I want to do them, but there's no rush, and I'm keeping my goals manageable. You know, I'm picking 14ers that are near me, that are, you know, class 1, class 2, just, you know, stuff that I can do. So, you know, it's okay if I don't complete my list. And, you know, I've done 3 14ers already, and that's a huge accomplishment by itself. Like, I'm proud of that for sure. Like, I was proud of doing 1, and, like, you know, even attempting 1. Like, it's incredible. It's an incredible experience. But, you know, it's okay if I don't do all of the ones on my list. It's fun to do them. Fun. It's fun to reach the top. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But, you know, for the time being, since I've done these hikes, I've just kind of been taking some quality recovery time, you know, a little bit of training here and there. But, like, yeah, that's where I'm at. Just remember that just because you are not hiking at the same pace, or you couldn't finish that hike, that doesn't make you a worse hiker than anybody else. You are doing your best. You're hiking your own hike. You're going at your own pace, and being out there makes you a hiker. And yeah, I guess I'll just end it here. Yeah. So thank you guys for listening to me ramble on about, you know, my shortcomings on trail, and, you know, maybe I hope it was relevant to you and you could relate to this and maybe find comfort in knowing that someone else had this experience on trail. And you know, I hope you enjoyed following along, even if it was, you know, a little bit different than what I normally do. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in my next trail journal video. See you next time.